Chapter 1. The evening at the Bergsons had been pleasant, even gay at times. But as Rabbi David Small, both hands clutching the wheel, drove the short distance home, he was aware that his wife Miriam was annoyed with him. It wasn't that she didn't speak. She was always careful not to distract him with casual conversation when he was driving. But he could detect it in the set of her chin and in the way she sat upright, her back barely touching the back of the seat. As always, when he reached their house, he let her out and then drove into the driveway to park the car in the garage. Normally, she would wait for him to rejoin her, and they would walk up the steps together, and he would unlock and open the door. But tonight, when he let her out at the curb, she used her own key and entered the house alone. "Something bothering you?" he asked when he came in a couple of minutes later. Although of average height, he looked shorter because of the scholarly stoop of a man who had spent his life poring over books, an effect heightened by his tendency to thrust his head forward as he peered at the world nearsightedly through thick-lensed, wire-rimmed glasses. She was slim, with the figure of a young girl, but there were fine lines at the corners of her eyes. Her heart-shaped face, though youthful, showed its maturity in the set of her firm chin. Her blonde hair, now occasionally tinted, or as she would say, touched up at the hairdresser's, was piled on top of her head as though to get it out of the way. She stood very straight and looked at him accusingly. "You weren't very sociable tonight," she said coldly. "In fact, you were positively hostile." "Only to that idiot Ben Clayman," he said. "And maybe to his friend Myron Levitt, the GE fellow, who came from Rochester a couple of years ago." "But why? What did Ben Clayman say or do?" "He asked me if I had visited Morris Fisher at the hospital. I told him I hadn't got round to it yet. And when he looked disapproving, I asked him if he had been. He admitted he hadn't, and then added, 'But I'm not his rabbi.' And that really annoyed me. So I explained to him that visiting the sick was enjoined on all Jews and was not a special rabbinic function." "You lectured him." The rabbi smiled. "Yes, I suppose I did." "I heard you," she said, and then added, "from the other side of the room." "I guess I did raise my voice a little. Several others had joined us, and Arnold Robbins kept bleating, 'But you're our spiritual leader.' Now that really ticked me off, and I told him if it was a spiritual leader the congregation wanted, they should have got a Protestant minister or a Catholic priest rather than a rabbi." "You didn't?" She was shocked, but she couldn't help smiling. "I certainly did." He nodded in smug satisfaction. "And then this Levitt person said his rabbi in Rochester who had married him was a veritable saint, and he was sure it was responsible for the success of his marriage. Now, how do you respond to that kind of idiocy?" So I said that no doubt it was the reason for the low divorce rate in the Jewish community of Rochester. "Oh, David, you didn't." "I did. And I don't think he even realized I was being sarcastic. When I asked Clayman if he had any complaints about his marriage, at which I had officiated, if you remember, someone said he wouldn't dare say so if he did, and that broke it up." "Ben Clayman is one of your most loyal supporters. I don't know why you'd want to antagonize him." "Oh, I didn't antagonize him, just kidded him a little." "Well, then, Arnold Robbins. You know, David, it seems to me that lately you've been awfully short-tempered with a lot of members of the congregation." He grinned at her. "You think they might fire me?" "Of course not, but because, as you know very well, the board of directors has tried to fire me 12 times. They tried the very first year I was here. I had to fight to keep my job. Each time I justified it on the grounds that the congregation as a whole wanted me and that it was only the board that was hostile. But maybe that was only a rationalization for what was actually plain stubbornness on my part." "That was then, but now the board is behind you 100%. You've won them over. Now they like you, and you're presuming on it." He shook his head. "No such thing. It's just that I got older and they got younger." "What do you mean?"